today?
I got an email.
Well, good.
So I decided I wanted to hear.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, are any of you participating in I think I have it in my slideshow, in the May 10th event? Yep.
Maybe. Yeah.
We'll be there. Matt, I was very moved to hear of Chris's dad's death. I did not think the obituary in the New York LA Times did justice to him at all. I was very angry at it.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen it.
It spent too much stress on him as a difficult curmudgeon to work with.
Oh, yeah.
It is
Well,
true,
he
but this
was.
is true, but this isn't the moment to say so.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 It
Seems
also
like-
it talked about his South Central work without talking about his downtown work.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. But more known for South Central than downtown.
Mary, I couldn't hear what you just said.
He is more known for his South Central than downtown.
Right. Well, what he did downtown was milk downtown to benefit South Central. It was a
I
beautiful thing
know.
to do.
I lived in downtown. I grew up down there with him.
Yeah, but he was the principal party in the creation of the downtown strategic plan,
Right.
which I was on that board, and that plan happened. It didn't just sit on the
Yes.
shelf. It really happened, and that's because of his push.
Oh, yeah. He was very good. Actually, one of the better councilmen we ever had down there that was completed what he started.
Yep.
You know, he fought to the end. And I've liked Chris for that reason. Chris is so much quieter, but you know, he's nothing like his dad, but he's still got the knowledge behind his, you know, from the experience of his dad.
Well, I'm going to get started and I'll let people enter as they trickle in from the waiting area. But I've got a running commercial that I run at the beginning of each of these meetings. So please indulge me. So again, welcome for those who are enjoying this recording after the fact. Welcome to our May meeting and our speakers program. It is a running series that we have called our Joe Lyons Memorial Speakers series on housing and homelessness. And we are so fortunate to have Gene joining us today. And I'll introduce him a little bit later with some biographical information. But want to thank you all for joining us either in person or enjoying this via a recording at a later date. I do want to highlight an upcoming action alert for this weekend, specifically Saturday, May 10th at 2 p.m. It's a great opportunity to add your signs, your voices to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. We joined the Claremont Dems and other organizations uh, a few now maybe a few months ago at this very same park, and it's just a great assembly of great people. So if you're available, please stop by. Also wanted to highlight for those who may not be as familiar with the Bonita Dems and how to stay connected and stay informed, or get connected and stay informed. We do have a static web site, but most of our activity does happen in our Facebook group. And so if you're on Facebook, you can look us up and connect with us in our private group. We do also have a public page, Instagram, and then all of our recordings are located on our YouTube channel. And so this will be recorded and placed on our YouTube channel. Let's see here. Also want to highlight our membership opportunities. Membership is as low as $10. We do also have a sponsorship level, and that allows us to extend free memberships to students, seniors, and whoever wants to join but maybe not pay the membership dues. We're very fortunate to have several sponsors. Derek Baumanu, who's a governing board member from Bonita Unified, Dennis Bertone, who's a retired city council member, Jane Riggs, our very own supervisor, Hilda Solis, and Tracy Lee Taylor. They're all sponsor members who allow us to extend free members to any one of our community members who ask. Then just wanted to highlight our continued membership growth. As of today, actually, we're at 121 active and paid members. And so we've grown since we reawoken the club. This was initially established in 2005. The club did go dormant for a little bit, and we woke the club back up in 2021 and re-engaged folks in the San Dimas and Laverne area. So I want to thank everyone who has joined us as official, active, and voting members. Also wanted to highlight our local candidates' victory fund successes. Our most recent one was re-electing and electing progressives on the school board. This allows us to really not get caught up in some of the other nonsense that happens in school districts like Glendora, Chino Valley. We have fought off book banning efforts. We have supported our LGBTQ students. And we're able to do that because we have a progressive majority on our local school board. And so we're thankful for those successes. Moreover, we're thankful for those candidates that we're able to support. And so most recently, that was Greg Pilato and Brittany Allison. And we will be continuing to target races in 2026. We've achieved successes in 2020, 22, and again, most recently in 2024. We have identified our targeted races, and so you can support that through our Victory Fund. And then lastly, before I introduce Jean, I just wanted to remind folks why we call this the Memorial series on housing and homelessness. Joe Lyons, full disclosure, was my father, but he joined me in this wild adventure of starting this club back in 2005. So he was a charter member in 2005 in starting this club. A lot of folks don't realize that he moved to Claremont later in life. So he broke all the rules. He didn't serve on any committees or commissions before he ran for city council, but he ran for city council very successfully after being what we call a red zone candidate for state senate. He gained a lot of name recognition, connected with some great progressives in Claremont. So when there was an open seat back in 2011, he ran and he was victorious. He successfully served 2 full terms in Claremont. And during that tenure, became a housing champion who sat on the dais and really was a voice for those who were housing insecure or homeless. He experienced Occupy Claremont during this time, and that really focuses efforts on what was called Claremont Homeless Advocacy Project. And that is better known as CHAP, an all volunteer relationship based program that was very successful in providing emergency shelter. He was a champion of Measure H when cities were not. He transformed the opinions of many cities, and that helped pass the LA County wide Measure H. He created and chaired the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments Homelessness Committee. When cities did not want to talk about housing and homelessness, he forced the issue. And in fact, he brought many city leaders to the table when before they weren't willing to sit at the table and have these conversations. So he created and chaired that committee during his tenure as a city council member. He was also a chair of the San Gabriel Valley Consortium on Homelessness, and he advocated for the creation of the San Gabriel Valley Regional Housing Trust that funds and finances the planning and construction of homes in the valley. And so that, in a nutshell, is why we have created this series. And Gene is a longstanding champion in this space. In his government service, he was the founding executive director for the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority. He has been a champion in building nonprofits that make a difference in communities and in regions. We are so fortunate to have him as a neighbor in Pilgrim Place and in Claremont, and also very fortunate to have him leading Housing Claremont, which is a chapter of Abundant Housing LA. So again, welcome to all of you that are with us live and to those who are enjoying this recording. We are so looking forward to hearing from Gene. And I'm going to stop my screen share and allow you to introduce yourself, Gene, and start the show.
Very good. So you're going to drop your screen share. I want to say hello, and from a sister club immediately to your east in Claremont, I send greetings to the Bonita Club. We're a small group, and therefore, instead of a straightforward lecture, I want to make sure that you feel free to intervene at any point. Just raise your hand, either physically with your real hand or the raised hand icon on the machine to question jargon or to add comment. There's no reason for us not to be doing this hour together. I want to first of all say thanks to Matthew for landing on your feet and sending condolences to you because of your long history working with Chris Holden on the death yesterday of Nate Holden, who I felt in my years of downtown living in Los Angeles was among my heroes, as was Joe. My most important qualification for speaking tonight is that I am a fan of Joe Lyons, and the presidency of the organization I'm leading for another month until I change to vice president for strategy. The role I play was once played by Joe when he founded the Homeless and Housing, the Housing and Homeless Collaborative of Claremont, which has the street name of Housing Claremont and the also street name, now that we are a chapter of Abundant Housing LA, of Inland Abundant Housing. And we'll talk more about that as we go. I'm going to introduce a screen share now to to just go through the outline that I have in mind. So play from start. Are you seeing a list of 9 points?
Yes,
And if you're, if you have the images of the people participating over on the right side, you can push it over to the left side over the logo and get it out of the way. So just a little more self-introduction. He mentioned LASA and FEMA board and the fact that I worked a lot with the labor movement. I was the lobbyist for the farm worker movement for a number of years in Washington, and served as the chair of the poverty board, the OEO board for the city of LA and for the city of Fresno and in southeast Wisconsin. But I've also had some lived experience. My kids have all been in Title I and Head Start and free school lunch and other poverty programs. And I've had the experience of living in a car with kids and living in group housing that wasn't legally permitted. So I've had some of those experiences, although I've never been that kind of involuntary poor. I do have also a son and a daughter-in-law who were homeless for a number of years on the streets of LA and who are still having a hard, difficult life. So this is not only organizational and professional and motivated by empathy, it's also personal, as it is for so many of the rest of us. So going back to my outline here, my plan is to very, very briefly name the crisis, which we all know, and review the causes, incremental solutions very quickly. Talk about, because we're friends here, about the biggest problem. One of the big problems we're having right now is Democrats fighting among themselves in the state legislature and on city boards and so forth. We are not united in our work on this agenda. And then some housing agenda, homeless agenda, and precariously housed agenda. And then I'm going to encourage you to sign up for receiving emails and looking at the website of Inland Abundant Housing. So starting out again with this is me, and I'm very glad to be here. And again, my chief characteristic for this meeting is that I'm a fan of Joe Lyons. Okay, we already know the crisis, and to spend time on it in this particular group of friends would not be reasonable. We don't need to do Housing 101, but we just remind ourselves ever so briefly that Southern California worse than California, California worse than the nation worse than the developed democracies around the world is having a severe housing crisis. And that is the leading cause of, although not the only cause, of a matching crisis and homelessness. And the crisis has built for years, and it's gotten to incredibly, incredibly dramatically difficult proportions where it is now at the top of many people's agendas as the crisis most apparent to them, other than the crisis in democracy at the national level. It is one of the very major crises, and it has occupied an enormous amount of time and energy on the part of our state legislature. So this is our topic. We can go back to discussing the nature of that crisis, but I think that is well covered in everybody's head already, unless somebody wants to ask questions about it. And remember, we're a small group, so you can interrupt me for questions when you feel like it. So let's talk a little bit about the causes. Because I'm a preacher, among the causes are just plain sin and evil. We as a human bunch have the capacity to do really nasty things to each other, and that has fed into the homeless crisis. Historically, we have not just had a craving for a picket fence and a green lawn and lots of space in a double-car garage. It's also been rooted in, and that should be in a neighborhood where white people live. California has a long history of racism, especially related to housing. It's only been in our lifetime that we had racial covenants, uh, restrictive covenants forbidding you to sell your home to, and then there were a series of people to whom you were not to sell your home. The law no longer permits the enforcement of those, but there's a lot of them still in people's deeds, and there's a lot of them in people's hearts. So this the cause of the crisis is partly in race and class. It's partly because blockbusting and redlining have been a historically successful strategy for upselling homes. And for blockbusting creates potential for bringing in people who are desperate for housing and ripping them off. And it is a strategy that has worked. Not all realtors, of course, are evil, but the real estate industry has intentionally created especially exclusionary zoning. Most of California residential properties are zoned for single large family lots with one home on it and one household in the home. And that zoning isn't historic. It's gotten worse and worse with every passing decade. And it is the number one problem, along with sin and evil and race, behind the crisis in housing and homelessness. Localism, the idea that nobody but the neighborhood, and then not even the city council, but the district, especially in Los Angeles, the district jefe, the city council member for that district, or the unincorporated parts of the city of the county, the city, the county supervisor for that district, have had extreme control over housing developments. And so that has worked primarily to defeat housing developments, not to enable and encourage them. We're still living in an era in which, once upon a time, the California voters wanted to preserve residential property from property tax increases and went overboard in a law which has stifled home ownership and home sales ever since. So there's a huge incentive for an elderly person to stay in a home that would be much better used by a younger family with kids, but the advantage in tax from not selling the home is so huge that that still operates as a major deterrent to new development of housing. Then we have the sale of rental houses into huge corporations that are predatory, and many of them national level, and the rip-off of our homes so that the landlord isn't a mom and pop with 4 units trying to supplement their Social Security. It's a multi-billion-dollar corporation that owns hundreds of properties and doesn't give a damn about their tenants. The safety net's too thin, so more and more people, especially those who were in very precarious situations for one reason or another, the safety nets of food and shelter and health services and food stamps and Medicare and Medicaid, all of the safety nets have been too thin, too difficult to access, and that increases homelessness and it increases the difficulty in developing housing. We've had a stigma that makes it hard to treat homeless people whose health problems include mental illness or include developmental disabilities or include problems with substance use. And that stigma, which has been very pervasive, has led to policies that don't work in solving homelessness, sweeps and get them out of our sight and get them out of our yard without a plan that will strengthen their resilience and lead them to prosperity or to at least to thriving. So all of that combined with at American level, and this is partly Democrats to blame, slipping away from New Deal aspirations to being limited in what we want to do for poor people. We Democrats are partly to blame for that. And the observation, finally, that not in my backyard is, of course, a leading cause of the homeless crisis and the housing crisis. So those are the problems. We have incremental solutions. We've been working at it for years. The legislature has been very brave and dramatic at times. But there's this big picture conflict with lots and lots of disinformation between it works and it doesn't work. I was the first of about 10 directors of LASA, all of whom have left under pressure, including the one that just left this last couple of weeks, because we were pointing out over and over again that it worked. And then we have detractors that say, oh, no, it doesn't. It's too expensive, and it didn't solve homelessness. It didn't solve homelessness. I like to use this example. I can prove that education doesn't work. A bunch of kids walk into a first grade classroom. None of them can read. The teacher works with these kids, and there's a curriculum, and there's supportive services of all kinds, and the school provides various resources. At the end of the year, out of that classroom in May or June, walks a bunch of little kids who can read. It did not solve non-reading, because the next September in comes a bunch of kids who can't read. I've proven education doesn't work. Let's do away with it, right? So a similar phenomenon happens where even though LASA and the county and the cities and the various programs, including the one Matthew highlighted that Joe started, CHAP in Claremont, they have worked. They have worked because this person and that person and that person over there and that person over there was helped out of homelessness into housing. That young family was allowed to buy a first home with subsidy from the state. It worked, but it didn't work for everyone. And so then the detractors say, it doesn't work. It's too expensive. It didn't solve homelessness. It didn't solve the housing crisis. Don't do it anymore. Well, so our solution has been at the legislative level and among all 5 supervisors, not just the Democrats, but all 5 supervisors have been, oh no, let's do housing. Let's do all kinds of housing. And right this minute, this year, as a result of all kinds of efforts by city, county, state legislature, and leftover stuff from Biden, we are at the present time in the process in this region of building 6,000 units in 64 fully affordable projects in our region. Last year, it was 2,100 units under construction. This year, 6,000 units and 64 fully affordable projects spread all over the LA County region. Will that solve the housing crisis? No. Is it a huge benefit to dent the crisis? Yes. Is it worth doing? Oh boy, yes. But we have to keep working at it in every so many different ways. One of the problems in working on it is we fight among ourselves. We haven't been a little bit less than united as an organization of Democrats, even though we have control of many city councils, nonpartisan positions, of course, but you know who's who. Even though we have a great majority in the state legislature, we're not united. There are a lot of Democrats who are very, very committed to local control and fight the state legislature's attempt to develop and encourage and promote housing developments. We have such a thing as a liberal NIMBY who says, I strongly believe in permanent supportive housing somewhere else. I really believe we need more homeless services in our town somewhere else. But this isn't the right location. That isn't just conservatives saying that. And so we have a lot of work to do within our own clubs, within our own party, within the 200 members of the Bonita Democratic Council. We have to keep working among ourselves over our own failure to unite around support for housing projects and for homeless services. It took 6 years to get SB4 through the legislature, which is a measure that I worked a lot on, which has the effect of making it much more possible with increased opportunities and decreased barriers to building apartment size, permanent supportive housing, and other affordable housing projects on land that's owned by churches or by nonprofit colleges. It took 6 years because it kept getting hit with Christmas trees, in which friends of ours, Democrats, who prioritize environment, wanted to load this measure up with all kinds of environmental restrictions, some of which I think are a wonderful idea, unless they come at the price of denying a viable housing project. And other people have added not just prevailing wage, but doing more to try to get a full union shop in every case with every kind of labor benefit because of the pressure point that they had at the state legislature. And so these measures intended to make it easier to build affordable housing have become Christmas trees that then bog down and get defeated, Democrat against Democrat, within our caucus in the state legislature. And then that happens repeated when it comes down to city council. You've had a horrible fight that I only know some of the details of in San Dimas over an affordable housing project that you know the story better than I. The project on Baseline, on Foothill Boulevard, that seemed from my distance to look like an extremely good project and got itself killed over NIMBY. Somebody else may want to talk about that project and whether or not you can get it resurrected. Within the legislature, the realtors fighting projects and the builders advocating for projects in many cases are both Democrats. The urban, suburban, rural feuds happen among us. Then, unfortunately, the more I've looked at why sometimes good measures don't pass the legislature, it's personal feuds among Democrats, prerogatives of chairs, or people who don't like other people because of their lifestyles within our caucus. So as we work together to find solutions, we have to, amongst other things, be a little more disciplined and a little more working it hard on our own Democrats. I come now to a housing agenda. These are my own lists, but you'll find most lists are very similar to this. What can we do, yes, in my backyard to achieve a whole lot more housing than the ones I described, the wonderful 6,000 units that we have presently under construction in projects, 64 affordable projects, more than 6,600 units currently under construction. The most important thing for Democrats to do is win elections with pro-housing candidates. That's the number one way to build housing. The number two way is to make sure that the legislature this time puts the $10 billion bonds on the November 2026, next year, 2026 ballot in November. Remember that there were 3 bond measures competing in the legislature last year. All 3 of them deserved support. All 3 of them had Democrats pushing them all the way to the finish line. 2 of them crossed the finish line. One was for education, a very good thing, I'm for it. The other one was for environmental infrastructure, a very good thing, I'm for it. The third one was $10 billion for housing. It got pushed away. So now the issue is to bring that one as the big housing bond measure on the November ballot next year. The next third item in the housing agenda is that this next year it's going to be incredibly tough for the state and the county budgets that are due to be enacted by July 1. As you know, that word is supposed to be county instead of country, but it's also true of country. In fact, it is the struggle at the federal level that is causing so much of the grief and uncertainty at the state and county level. But our goal needs to be to protect existing housing and homeless services and safety net services that put money in poor people's pockets so that they can afford their rent or their mortgage. And that's going to be very tough, and we have to keep up. Some of that may not look like housing legislation. It may look like budget having to do with health and welfare, but that's housing, because if that money has to be spent on medicines not covered by Medicare and Medi-Cal, then it's going to be money that isn't available for paying rent. That's going to lead to evictions. It's going to lead to homelessness, and then we have a whole bunch, maybe 50, 60 bills currently in the legislature to remove obstacles and add incentives and funds. Some of them are small bore. There's a package of 22 of them that have various effects, mostly to remove obstacles that slow down housing developments. But some of them add funds and incentives. And then the next objective here is to build. And our role in building is to, we're not builders, is to support and instigate projects, have the backs of projects. I spent 4 hours 2 nights ago with the, excuse me, I stumbled on a word, the design, not design, the Commission of City Council, that the Planning Commission of Claremont, which for Claremont has managed, because of not having a good pro-housing majority on the city council, to delay a very good 70-unit market rate housing with set-asides for very low and low income, or very low and moderate income housing in the on some broken down old tennis courts behind the Motel 6 at American Avenue and Indian Hill, immediately south of the 10 freeway. Being developed by a very good developer. They are market rate houses, townhouses, which are lower than many other market rate houses and would bring workforce housing to Claremont that we desperately need. They've been trying to get full permission to build that thing for 4 years. That costs money. That costs a lot of money. And it was very interesting during these 4 hours to listen to the various, not only the NIMBY neighbors who are saying, all kinds of weird reasons why this was completely unsafe because of all the troubles for pedestrians or all the troubles with the freeway not having enough walls between it and the housing, or how much traffic there is at the intersection of Mills and American Avenue, and all kinds of things. What they were really saying is, we don't want anything in our neighborhood except what we've got. Nuts to you, I've got mine. But in addition to the NIMBY, there was this weird conversation in which the city attorney kept gently telling them, you have no choice. This is in your housing element. This is entitled by right to state law. The state law says you can only have 5 hearings to decide whether to do this or not. You've already had a bunch of hearings. You're violating state law if you don't approve this project. And so then everyone spent their 4 hours trying to figure a wiggle way out of that, what the city attorney kept telling them. So this is where the wonderful work of the state legislature over several years to make it harder for NIMBY to succeed was taking root in this project. And I believe this project will now get built, I think, because of the work of Democrats in the state legislature to make it harder and harder for our narrow-minded little council majority. If there's anybody of you on the council on the line right now, I apologize to you, your dear friends, all five of you. Then it's fun to watch the city attorney say to them, I'm sorry, things have changed. You can't do it the way you used to do it. You can't just block this project. You're going to have huge fines. In fact, you'll get sued if you don't approve this project, said the city attorney as gently as she could in a roundabout way. But she said it over and over to them. That is an accomplishment that we have won. That's at the top of our housing agenda, to remove the obstacles and build the incentives and to support and instigate projects, and to demand housing element compliance. We have a fairly good housing element in Claremont. I have not studied the ones in Laverne and San Dimas. I'd love to hear about your experiences with them. But housing elements on paper aren't implemented. They're implemented when people say, you haven't done it. You promised to do it. If you don't do it, we're going to tell the state. In fact, we might even sue you. And in fact, we're going to complain about you bitterly because you promised. And it has to be done. It has to be done because the citizens of the state want it to be done. It's time for you to get building. And so demanding housing element compliance is one of the most useful things that any of us can do. We don't have to be builders to do that. And we're not just talking about big apartment buildings for the very poor. Those we need. But we also need ADUs. We need infills. We need duplexes and quadruplexes, 4-unit houses where there used to be one house on a lot. We need housing that's affordable for first timers. We want all kinds of housing. That's why our little organization is supporting market rate housing in Claremont. Even though we are especially committed to poor people's subsidized housing, of course we support workforce housing too. So a housing agenda, and then a homeless services agenda. We know what works. We know housing for health and housing first works. We know that if you approach people not with, I'm going to put you in jail and fine the hell out of you if you don't go into this shelter, instead building trust, navigating, doing outreach, the kind of work that LASA has done over and over and over, reaching thousands of people, but being blamed because it didn't reach the other thousands. It works. It leads, and when you approach people with dignity and openness, there's much more likelihood of success. That's why Matt was praising CHAP at the beginning. Tomorrow I'm meeting with two Claremont City Council members, our Mayor Corey and Ed, to talk about re-establishing CHAP, Matt, the program that your dad worked on. It got lost during COVID, and we need to build that. And there's another thing we need to do, which applies equally to Laverne and to San Dimas. We need to have a safe parking program in our area. There is an excellent safe parking program, a number of years old now, in Los Angeles, multiple sites, mostly on the west side, but also downtown in the convention center area, also in the San Fernando Valley. They want to come this way. Their foundation is at Leo Beck Temple. They've got very good faith-based origins. Most of the key staff have worked for the county in their housing, homeless, health department, social services. They know what they're doing. They'd like to come our way. That doesn't have to be a Claremont-only project. And so I'm very interested in promoting a new safe housing, safe parking program for out here in our region. It would have local preference for people coming in, and then once they're in the program, then you put them on the coordinated countywide system for allocating resources to individuals. So we've got Prop A and Prop H at the county level. We've got housing for health. The goal is to build, and the role for advocates is to promote the building project by project and housing element by housing element. One word about precariously housed. We have in Claremont a really good Claremont tenants housing group working on trying to beat down the strong opposition to any kind of rent control, rent stabilization, renter registry, anything that will help protect tenants from unfair evictions, help them with discrimination, help them stay housed, those who are precariously housed. We have a very good in Claremont local chapter of a statewide organization working on trying to force the colleges, both public and private, to develop more and more student housing. So many students are homeless, living in cars, sleeping on other people's couches. We need to do a lot more, and there's resources to do that. We just need to push at it. Precariously housed people who don't lose their housing, that's a housing victory, just as much as building a new house for them. And so that's my agenda. Naming the crisis, naming the causes, the big picture that incremental solutions are all we can do, but they do work. Lower the level of fighting among ourselves, a housing agenda, a homeless services agenda, a precariously housed agenda. And then I encourage you to look up Inland Abundant Housing, our website, and register free to subscribe to contact from us. Our contact will soon be integrated. Right now it isn't, but it will be within the month with the contact system of Abundant Housing LA, which has emerged as a very reliable, staffed, foundation-driven, healthy advocacy organization working throughout the metropolitan LA area. And we have just become a chapter of theirs and are integrating our work as much as we can in memory of Joe into their regional work. I'm now open to conversation and questions and comments, and we'll stop the screen share. And I appreciate your sitting through 40 minutes or half hour, whatever I did. And I hope it was useful. And I'm very glad to answer comments and questions.
Looks like we got a question from Dave.
It is so nice to meet you, Gene.
Thank you, Brother David.
Oh my goodness, I am so impressed. I would like to see if I could maybe arrange a meeting, perhaps with you and some of the members of our city council in San Dimas.
I would love that.
To give you a picture of where they're coming from, and at the same time allowing me to see what they're thinking, and then see what we can do. I think there's so much more that has to be done. The 28 Olympics is just around the corner. I want to be ready for that sort of thing. So I want to thank you and congratulate you. But one question has to do with it may not even be related to the new job that Jed Liano is doing with the homeless. Are you tied into him at all?
Oh yeah. Inner City Law Center has been there for a long time, and he's now a senior executive within that wonderful law firm, which has had strong support from some of the big downtown law firms, as well as from poor people on Skid Row. It was started by Nancy Minty. It's got good leadership. One of their activities for a number of years that I absolutely loved was they worked with the city attorney in the city of Los Angeles to identify slumlord properties and bring all the evidence necessary to bring charges against the landlord, and then work with the judge to create a penalty. And the penalty was you have to live in the property until it's up to code. You have to live there yourself, landlord. And this was an innovation, a nationwide innovation in strategy that was created by Inner City Law Center.
I had no
Unfortunately, they were working with with our wonderful state senator, Perez, on a piece of very important legislation that just got watered down in the Senate Local Government Committee. It would have reversed the very adverse criminalization of homelessness that was allowed by the U.S. Supreme Court in the wake of the I'm stumbling for the name in Nevada. Can anybody help? The name of the city that criminalized homelessness and got away with it all the way to the Supreme Court after being denied ability to do it at the district level. The Supreme Court reversed. Anyway, it was to undo that horrible situation, and it would have allowed sweeps with all kinds of protections for people's property and for warnings and other new measures to make the sweeps less horrendous and dignified. It would prevent fining people for being homeless. It would prevent jailing people for being homeless, but it would allow removal of illegal encampments. So it was a compromise. Almost everything is gone from that bill, except it would no longer allow cities to criminalize providing services to the homeless. What Grants Pass is the name of the city I was trying to say. At Grants Pass, the city council passed a law that, amongst other things, made it a crime to feed homeless people publicly. And so what's left of the Perez legislation overturns that and says the city cannot criminalize helping people who are homeless, but it no longer protects homeless people from fines and imprisonment for being homeless. And Inner City Law Center just lost on that one, but they'll come back. They'll keep working on it. And they also were very strong supporters of another measure, Gonzalez, which would have allowed by right more small apartments up to several units in some certain zones that were currently zoned single-family residence. And they didn't have the votes to get it to the second committee in the House. So now it's a 2-year bill. They did not face defeat in committee. Instead, they saw the vote count. So anyway, I'm very glad Jed is there. He isn't going away. He's still a city council with us. He's still working regionally, but he's got this new gig, and I'm very pleased for that. Although it's a shame to lose him as an immigration lawyer.
Right.
Thank you for your
Gene.
question, David.
Gene, I'll be reaching out to you to set up that meeting. Thank you.
I'm look forward to getting to know you better, and I'll be happy to do that.
So it looks like we have a question
James?
from James.
Yes. First of all, Gene, I want to thank you for joining us tonight and sharing the information that you shared with us, which is both educational and very informative. The question that I have is that it seems like this not homeless, but it was a combination of homeless and housing. It's been an ongoing issue. And there's been a mandate that's come down from the state to the various cities that we need to do something to fix this problem. Is the state following up to make sure that those things are taking place? Or what seems to be the holdup? Because we've seen where we've had several cities that were allocated monies for homelessness and for housing, but didn't use those funds. And I'm sure you've heard about that, correct?
Right. The answer is that at the present moment, and I pray this moment will continue for a long time to come, the state attorney general and the State Department of Housing and Community Development are militant in trying to get cities and unincorporated parts of counties to obey their own housing element, and are also forbidding housing elements that are grossly inadequate to meet state law. And so we have in Claremont, after a year of delay and after all kinds of attempts to water it down, a reasonably good housing element as part of our general plan. And it has, in it opportunity sites, some of which are unrealistic. They're not going to happen. for construction of new housing. It has all kinds of promises about what the city is going to do to protect tenants and to do all kinds of good things. Enforcement is pretty slack in our city, and we're doing what we can to call attention to that and try to enforce it. And we have, as our city attorney told the planning commission 2 nights ago, over and over again, we've got the law on our side. And if the city were to continue to drag its feet, for instance, on that new apartment building next to the Motel 6 at Indian Hill and American, we will sue. And the state will support us, and the state will fine them, and the state will punish them. And the attorney for the city told them so. And so I hope that continues. Now that requires some local effort. The state doesn't have the resources to know for sure because the city will lie to them. The state doesn't have the resources without your help to know whether or not your own housing element is being obeyed and whether or not it's being consistent with state law. So there's work for us to do. And that work is easier than, getting out there with a hammer and building a house. But it will lead to housing getting built. And so it is very good work for Democratic clubs to be doing. The legislature wants us to do that. Our friends in the democratically run state government want us to do that. We got to do it. We're doing it in Claremont. I hope we can help you do it in Laverne and in San Dimas. Thank you so much. Thank you, James and David, for that question.
One last question. It was a two-part question. The last part of the question is that, most of the cities would tell you that the cities are not in the business of building housing. What they do is they work with contractors and they work with developers. And in terms of working with them, they provide incentives in order for them to make sure that depending on the number of units that they're going to build, a certain portion of it is going to be affordable. Yet when you ask people, what do you consider affordable or how do you determine it? Nobody can clearly articulate how that's determined. Because if you're looking at the comps in a certain area, and let's say the average house is being sold for $1 million, and then the developer and the contractor comes back and say, well, okay, I'm going to build maybe 200 units, and out of that 200 units that I'm going to be able to sell at market rate, I may have maybe 20 units that would be affordable. And so we said, okay, great. And they said, well, that affordable is going to be 500,000. And so the average person will come back to us and say, wait a minute, that's not affordable. And then they'll come back and say, well, if the average house is selling for $1 million, can you afford to pay $1 million? We said, no, we can't afford to pay $1 million. Well, then 500,000 is affordable. But for a lot of people who are working with degrees, 500,000 is not affordable.
Right. So the missing middle issue is that, rich people can buy houses. Poor people, there are still existing, although they're in deep threat right now at the federal level, there are still existing some important programs for subsidizing very low-income housing development that's permanently subsidized and affordable. In between, it's very difficult, and one of the strategies is with the missing middle is subsidized first-time home buyer properties, little houses, townhouses like the ones I've been talking about tonight that are under development, we hope under development in Claremont. Those will be, those will not be cheap. They'll be, like $600,000, but with the mortgage over the years. But that's not $1 million, which is what housing costs in Claremont. And it is something. There are such things as incentives for first-time home buyers, incentives for veterans, incentives for that can help people become home buyers. And anything, I mentioned the importance of the state budget. There are some small programs in the state to do that. A big part of the bond measure that will be on the ballot next year, unless we lose it in the legislature this summer. A big part of that bond measure is for first-time home buyers. and it is directly addressing the issue you just described, James, of helping working families, helping the bus driver, the school teacher, to be able to get into their house with their down subsidized, their mortgage made manageable. That's a very important goal. And the best way to do that is to have money that does a shallow subsidy, not as deep a subsidy as you have to do for the very poor, but a subsidy nevertheless. That's an important part of it, not just for the poor, not just for the rich, but also programs in between.
Thank you.
That's why our little housing organization, even though we have a preference for the poor, is not only supporting permanent supportive housing for poor people. We support housing because housing, housing is housing, and because when, for instance, if seniors have an ability to buy a house that's suitable for them, then maybe they'll give up their larger house, and maybe that will then become affordable for a growing family. And so, the trickle down matters. When people can't move, and when people can't develop enough new housing, that's a problem. I need to say one more thing about the current crisis. The housing developers, for instance, there's a project that is just being developed by the community of friends here in our region, and it's got 49 units, $42 million is the cost of the whole thing. It's got 10 different funding sources. Some of the money comes from low-income housing tax credit. Some comes from a permanent loan from a bank. Some comes from the City of Los Angeles Homes Funds. Some comes from the Department of Housing and Community Development, $3 million, an infrastructure grant program. Some comes from the City of Los Angeles Homelessness Reduction. Some of it comes from California Housing Finance. Some of it comes from the Federal Home Loan Bank. Some of it comes from Metro. This was being built on property that's owned by Metro, the trains and buses. And some of it is coming from foundation grant. They had to put all that together to be able to build. And that's real complicated. It means that just because we passed a huge amount of money, tax money, Prop H, they'll bring $1 billion a year into this field. We still need the tax credits from the feds. We still need to know in the very affordable housing that the Section 8s will be there, that the good faith and credit of the United States government still exists. Does it? So that's why at the very top of the list, what to do about housing is win elections. And that's where I report back to the Bonita Democratic Council saying, carry on, brothers and sisters, you're doing what you need. The most important part of the agenda for housing and homeless services is winning elections. Matt, it's yours unless you want to allow more questions.
You know what? Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me talk.
No, you took us right to the end. I want to respect your time. Thank you so much, Gene, for talking about housing and yes, in my backyard solutions. I hope that the conversations will continue that David facilitates in San Dimas because we need to scale up the solutions. And one of the things my dad reminded me was that we all own a part of the solution. And it isn't one city's responsibility. It is all cities, every corner of this county, every corner of this state. We all have to be a part owner in accepting this responsibility. So thank you, David, for facilitating those conversations in San Dimas. James is a planning commissioner in the city of San Dimas as well. And so we've got some good folks who can continue the conversations with the folks that are sitting in our dais. But I agree with you 100%. winning elections matter, and we need to make sure that we have progressive voices on our city councils, school boards, and county boards, and our state legislatures. So thank you so much, Gene. And with that, we'll conclude the speakers program, and I will stop the recording and we'll transition to the business part of the meeting.
Karen, by the way, hello, dear friend. Bye-bye, everyone.